Hello, everyone. And
Good
hopefully you had
evening.
a chance to watch that awesome scene. We've had it on YouTube for a little bit, but it's a nice way to get the intro into what we're going to be discussing today. My name is Adriana Dominguez, and I'm the director of the theater programs at UTEP, also an assistant professor. And I have the amazing Rafa with me, who is our director of audience development. I know a lot of you have joined us a lot, so some of this may sound really familiar, but we want to make sure if any newbies join us today that they are clear on what's going to go on today. So this programming is part of the NEA Big Read programming, and UTEP received a $15,000 grant to encourage literacy and community in El Paso. And so that's exactly what we're doing. We're using the book Into the Beautiful North to engage in that process. As we go on through the evening, you will see that you can get the book at several locations in the community. And we are having a lot of pieces inspired by the book presented to you. We are also having direct scenes from the play, which is an adaptation by Karen Zacarias that are also being presented to you. So we're really excited about this. It's something new, different, we hope, and we do appreciate you giving your time to join us today. Right before I hand it over to Rafa, who will be giving you a lot of the details of this awesome platform for you, those of you that are just joining us for the first time. We always want to recognize that we are on land that belonged to others before, and so we are on the traditional lands of the Mansos people. Rafa, can you tell us all about how this magic works?
Yes, of course. So, of course, welcome back to those of you who've been following along with us, and welcome to those of you who might be new. So, I do just want to do a really quick tour of Crowdcast here for you, so you kind of know how things are working here. So, over on the right side of your screen, you'll see that we have a lovely chat going, and so you would have used the link, I hope, for watching the scene 3 on YouTube, and you'll also notice that our program is linked on there as well. So, if you have any questions about who directed what, who the actors were, you can definitely see it on there. Hi, Yuvia. Um, and then at the bottom, you'll also see that there is a button for asking a question. So if at any point during the talk we say something that sparks a question, or you have something that you wonder about, that you want us to answer about the book or any of the scenes that you see, please go ahead and drop a question in there. We'd be more than happy to answer those questions for you. You'll also notice, and you'll need this for later, that there's a polls link down at the bottom. So we will be having another contest this evening. So we've been having different artistic contests for our book talks. And so for today, just so you kind of can get your mind working, just know that we'll be writing today. So keep that in mind. Hopefully you'll participate. I also do want to let you know that, of course, we have our questions that or suggested topics that we can kind of talk about for tonight's book talk that I think frame also what the book is about, and also the scene that was presented for today. So let me go ahead and pull this up for you here. And so as you can see, for our book talk questions today, we're asking and wondering, what do you make of the overwhelming turnout at Aunt Irma's interviews at the end of scene 3? And why do you think so many men wanted to return to Mexico? And how do you feel about that? What do you think about that? And also, we want to know whether you think that Nayeli made the right decision in not approaching her father and following his advice that all must pass. So just consider these questions. So in order to give you some time to do that, we do have another scene that we're going to present to you today, which is a devised piece by Melissa Crespo based on the novel. And it explores the sister cities of Kankaki and Casacuaran, the cities that are at hand for Into the Beautiful North. So the link for that is going to be dropped in the chat box here for you. So if you all join us, it's a short 3-minute video watching the Sister Cities video over on YouTube. And we'll resume right here on Crowdcast in about 3 minutes.
Lucky you, 2 videos today.
All righty. I
Excellent.
I forgot how emotional that was there at the end.
I know. I know. And this is, again, it's amazing that all of this work was being done at a distance, right? Like everyone worked in their independent spaces. Everyone was working on their own computers. And so again, we always really want to make sure that we give proper credit to all of you, Rafa included, right? Tacho, for Instant Mutual North, and how difficult this was, and still getting so much of that emotion across. And so let's always want to make sure we applaud them. And again, as Rafa mentioned, the program is there in the chat, so you can see that there were still so many people working on it. It took a great amount of time in order to make it happen, a lot of dedication. So we always want to make sure that we honor that. So we're going to take just a little bit of time, talk about these questions. And of course, if you have something else you want to talk about, we'll pop it in there. If you are uber excited to talk, we can bring you on screen too, no problem. You know, it's okay if you have your stretchy pants on the bottom, that's okay, you can still join us. So one of the ones we want to talk about is what we make of the overwhelming turnout produced on IRMA's interviews, right? So they put out ads, they put out information, they're trying to get their magnificent 7, right? They want their magical 7 to take back to their home community, right, to defend it. That was the whole point, you know, of Nayeli trying to get there. And then, you know, they're a little worried, and we'll actually read from the book in a little bit about that particular scene. They're a little bit worried if anyone's even going to show up. And then there's just this overwhelming response, right? They have tons of men there wanting to be interviewed, to be one of the lucky 7 to go back to the community. And so I think for me, Rafa, you know, you obviously have a double perspective because you were in the show as well. So thinking about how difficult it must be for these men who originally had to leave their home spaces, right? So showing up at that interview is a shot to maybe get back home. And I think a lot of times we forget that people, when they often immigrate to other spaces, is often out of necessity. It's not necessarily out of luxury. It's because their home community is not offering what they need, whether it's in terms of food, security, jobs, any of that. And so I think sometimes we forget that. And so I think that overwhelming response to me communicated that maybe some of these people didn't want to leave in the first place. You know, they had to. And so having a chance to maybe get to go back home was huge for them. And so that's why, you know, I feel that IRMA had so many people, you know, so many men show up to want to go back home.
Right. And I feel like so many people, or so many, I mean, not that I'm one of these people, but the stories that you hear and things that you see, and even this video that we just saw exploring Pepe's background, is that maybe some people feel that they have to come, that they have to cross to the north, that there's a purpose for them waiting there. And then they come and maybe realize that that their purpose isn't to be here, that maybe the land isn't what it originally promised or what they thought it promised. And it's just that complexity. And so I see your message there, Ulises, you know, what was the message of the video? And I feel like that's kind of what it talks about, you know, somebody who decided to make these choices, but hides the fact that maybe he regrets the choices that he made. And that's what I got from that image at the end. You know, it's just him looking, and he's looking down, and I just wonder what is going on in his mind. And congratulations to Raul. I thought that was a very great moment for Pepe to share with us there.
Absolutely, Def. And I think you bring the point, right, with Raul, like this expectation and then the reality. I know we've talked a lot about that in all of the book talks, you know, whether it's Natalie and her friends, or, you know, where they're going and what they're hoping that is going to happen. And it's a really different experience, right? As you were mentioning, many people may feel like they need to come to the north, that there's going to be all of these opportunities, and there may, but at what cost?
Right.
You know, and what that actual reality is of what has to be sacrificed, you know, what has to be given in order for that to happen. And so, you know, I think we always want to make sure that we honor those experiences. I think, like you said, Raul did a beautiful job, you know, and I think everyone in the chat who's saying kudos and congratulations, and that seems so sad. Yeah, I think it's taken on that really personal story of someone, again, maybe hoping for better, taking a huge risk, making that huge sacrifice. And sometimes it doesn't pan out. And then what do you do? Like, what do you do? And I think, going back to that top question is, that they're showing up at that interview in hopes like, okay, this particular avenue didn't work. I was hoping for it to work, and then it didn't. So let me go back.
Yeah, like maybe now this is the purpose that they originally thought they needed. Maybe now this is it, and this is what they can come back to. And I guess kind of jumping into the next question, I want to ask all of you don't mind sharing in the chat, why do you think so many of these men, or so many men who came here, or people really who came to the North, now want to return? Why do you think that is? I mean, the book and the play mentioned that there are over 70 men that come and show up for these auditions that they have. And, it's just really curious to me. Like, we don't get to hear what all of their reasons are, but when you think about it, I feel like there might be several. And, we've mentioned some that might be regret, or maybe not wanting to be here, but kind of being forced, or maybe just being, thrown, or I don't know, feeling, what's the word? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Not like kind of or about
the a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
What are they gonna do? Like, what are they gonna do? So yeah, take a moment. Feel free to drop it in the chat if you're super excited and you want to appear on screen. We can do that too. So we'll give you a moment, and if not, no pressure. This is again to enjoy the book, increase literacy, have some conversation. So we'll give you another moment to do that if you'd like to put some thoughts as to why you think so many people want to go back. Maybe after making that huge sacrifice, that huge move, and then wanting to go back. And if not, that's okay. I'm sure Rafa and I can talk more, but we do want to make sure we get to the last question up there before we get to your activity, because there's always an incentive involved in that one. So we'll give you just a moment if you have any thoughts in the chat. All right, so we have some thoughts here in the chat. Thank you, Margarita, Jesus, MG, Ruby, Yubia. Wow, we got a lot of good stuff. Yeah, reuniting with their families, absolutely. Going along with that idea of being homesick. I'm an uber family person. I could not imagine having that kind of a separation. MG and Maria, I know that's Maria, to return to their families. Yeah, that life they left behind. Ruby stated, I think it's because they might have thought that it was an easier life here once they got settled. But once they got settled, they realized that it's a never-ending struggle, and being away from family and always worrying about work and so many other things. Absolutely, right? It's that expectation and that reality, right, of what is really going to be there. And then if those opportunities aren't there, what do you do? And then especially with that expectation, Ruby, of like the idea is hopefully they're sending money home, right, or resources home. So how much is left for them too? And then Yubia, a lot of the people that come here leave their families behind. They're separated from their loved ones. Yeah, and I think that's a really tough decision to make. And so again, and I'll say it again, I think a lot of times we assume that people just leave because they can, and it's necessity, right? No one wants to leave their family behind or be separated for them or not be able to communicate and go back and forth. So I think those are some really valid points, and I thank you all for bringing them up, because yeah, I think it's reminding us to have compassion for people. Absolutely. So we'll move on to the next question, because we want to make sure we have time for our contest. And this one, I think we might need to give them a little bit more time, Rafa, for their contest, because we're going to make you use your brains. You got to earn those prizes. And so if you haven't read the book, this might come as a surprise, but if you have, that's okay. So the question is, does Nayeli make the right decision in not approaching her father? Following his advice, all must pass. So if you followed some of the book talks or the book or the scenes, you know that Nayeli holds on to that postcard from her father, and he has that statement, all must pass, right? And so that we're going to get over things. And again, if you haven't read the book, or I'm sorry if I'm doing a spoiler here, but Nayeli does find her father. Okay, like it's this, like it finally happens. She finds her father, but dun, 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 she doesn't approach him, and he has like another family. And it's heartbreaking. Like when I read it, I shattered, because I thought all of this, like so much struggle, all of this work. If you've read the novel, she not loses her friends, but they each kind of take their own path. Like it's kind of her tacho right up to the end.
Yes.
And then she finds her dad, and she realizes, he wasn't gonna come back. And I just think that is, it's so incredibly heartbreaking. And there's that moment, she could have gone up and said, what is happening? I have been struggling. I've been trying to find you. And she doesn't. And I think that says a lot about Nayeli, as a person. And so I want to get your thoughts, Rafa. Do you think she makes that right decision in not saying like, hello, I'm your daughter, and I've been waiting for years?
I mean, I think that's hard. I wouldn't say that she made the right decision. I think it's a decision that I would hope that I would make. It's definitely a very grown-up decision and painful, but also decisive. And I feel like she finally decides in that moment that she's in control of her life, and she's the one that is going to decide what she's going to do. And I mean, I almost wonder if just because the thought crosses my mind, if she doesn't feel any pity for him, and seeing him, because she says that he's fat now. And so, and I mean, we kind of got this devised look into Pepe's mind where we do see that he does have this regret. And so I feel like she probably saw something where she's like, okay, this is not where I belong anymore. This is what my mission is, to save my hometown. And so she decides to move forward with that.
Absolutely. No, I think you're right. I think she does make a very grown-up decision. And I think, as hopefully you read through the novel, everyone, you see her growth, right? At the beginning, she's making maybe some decisions, I mean, that most young people might make, based on maybe some superficial ideas. But then as the decisions are harder, the money's running out, like their options are running out. She's having to decide what is really important. What do I really need to do? And so I don't know, Rafa. I don't know if I could have been that adult. I mean, I don't even know if I could be that much adult now to do something like that. Just because I think they went through so much, and put so much of, themselves, right? Like they're sold out there. And then for it not to happen, I was at, but I think it made it very realistic for me. I think had she approached him and then he said, I love you and I'm going to take care of everything, I don't think I would have enjoyed the piece, because it would have just been too easy.
Right.
Like, it's fixed. And so I am curious about what other people are thinking. And if you just want to drop in the chat, let's take a minute and just put, a yes or no if you think she made the right decision. And if you want to expand on that, great. But if you just want to drop that in the chat just for a minute, we'll disappear from the screen, and then we'll come back, read from the novel, and get into the context. All right, so we got some good thoughts going. That he moved on with no regard to his first family. She must move on to, yes, I love that strong arm there. That it's heartbreaking that he has moved on, then her showing up wasn't going to fix anything. Yeah, everyone seems to say yes. Moving on is hard, but I think with everything she went through, she was ready. Yeah, and I think that speaks to this novel. We get to see, yes, a journey to the north, but we also get to see Nayeli's journey to kind of find her own. So again, I don't think I would have that strength, but you go, Nayeli. Like that was awesome. And so before we get into our contest, I was actually going to read a little bit from the interviews. But as we're talking about more of this Nayeli question, I'm just going to read a short section, that little piece where she sees him and then makes that choice, because I just think that's a little bit more. It's hitting us all right here in the heart. So I'm going to read that very quickly. If you have your novel, I'm looking at page 322 and 323. And then we'll get into our contest, and we'll have just enough time to do that. And I'm starting there in the middle. The trip, the border patrol, the dump. It had all been worth it, just to take her father home, just to see her mother's face. She bounced on her sore feet. She passed the cross street and walked on. A big new pickup stopped behind her at the cross and made a left turn. She could hear the music beating from the cab as it drove up behind her, then passed slowly. Some accordion banda music, crazy norteño cowboy music. The truck was a fat-bottomed Dodge, electric blue. He had 4 wheels in back and a bright silver toolbox in the bed. Twin aerials waved in the air. On one, the U.S. flag, and on the other, the Mexican flag. Nayeli laughed again. In the darkened back window of the cab, there was a white cartoon of a bad boy peeing. The big truck banged up into a driveway and shut down. The music snapped off. The door opened and a pudgy woman in yellow stretch pants crawled out of the passenger side. She reached into the back. There were more seats back there. She unbuckled a toddler from a car seat and hefted him onto her hip. Nayeli could hear her voice, but not what she was saying. She hurried, hoping to ask her if she knew Papa. The driver got out on his side. He slammed the door and came around to the woman's side. He wore a straw cowboy hat and boots and tight jeans. Nayeli stopped where she was. Don Pepe. Papa? She murmured. He had gotten fatter. His butt was round and his belly hung over his big belt buckle. He threw his arm around the woman and hugged her, turned her towards the house. He unlocked the door as Nayeli stared. He took off his hat and laughed something that the woman said and accepted a kiss on the mouth from her and smacked her bottom as she yelped and skipped inside. He briefly scanned the neighborhood. His eyes passed over Nayeli, right before stepping inside and slamming the door. The street was silent. Not many birds at all, and the ones that were there weren't singing, just making desolate little cheeping noises. She could hear the tractor, of course. She could hear the engine of the big pickup truck ticking as it cooled. And then all she could hear was the sound of her soles and her breathing as she sprinted away. Ah, that is so heartbreaking to me. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is an amazing piece because, again, I think it shows that strength of Nayeli. And then I see Yuvia putting there, it's more likely that his new family, you're right, he probably doesn't know about his old family. And yeah, she could have had an impact on that family. So I think Yuvia, you're speaking even more to her strength, right? She knew what that could possibly do to his family. And we see that there's a toddler, right? He has another child, which I think hurts even more, but she recognizes what could happen to that family. So she takes that sacrifice. Like, if it's mine that's going to go and be ruined, I'm not going to take another one. And I think that speaks so highly of Nayeli. So now it's contest time. Hopefully we've wiped away our tears and you're ready. And so what is going to happen is we are asking you all, whoever wants to participate, to write a poem, right? The first one we had to draw. The second one you had to pose like Nayeli for self-defense. And we recognize everyone has different talents. So this is a poetry contest. And so this is based on your response to the novel or the play, based on the scenes that you've seen. So it's very free and open. And Rafa's going to let you know how to upload this and tell us how to vote.
Yes. So in a moment, the link to a Google document is going to be posted in the chat. I highly recommend that you go ahead and write out your poem, either if you're using your computer, maybe in a note, or if you're using your phone, then I would say go ahead and type it in a note there too, and then copy and paste it into the Google document. So the link for the Google document is there now. And so once you have your poem, go ahead and, of course, don't forget to put your name or your pen name. If you'd like to have your pen name on there, that's fine. That way we can know who we're voting for the contest for today. So go ahead and write your poem. Don't forget your name, and then you can just copy and paste it into the Google document right here. So you'll see that there's already some lines that I've already created. So you can just pick an empty block and then paste your poem right in there. And then once we're ready, we'll invite everybody to view this Google document so they can read the poems, and we'll do the voting on the polls here on Crowdcast. So we'll give you all 10, 12 minutes to work on this. While we do that, go ahead and start, by the way. And while we do that, we'll go ahead and be sharing where you can pick up books for around El Paso for Into the Beautiful North, and our events for next week, as well as thanking all of those who've contributed to the Department of Theater and Dance and the production of Into the Beautiful North. So go ahead and be creative, and we'll see you back here, let's say 7:55.
Perfect.
Alrighty, so I can see on the Google Documents, some people might be making their finishing touches. So if you want to go ahead and finish that up, Wrap up your poem. Make sure your names are on there, please.
We have some talented people with us tonight.
We sure do. And so since we all have access to this Google document and we can see everyone's poems, then I think we can all go ahead and read the poems from there. While you are all looking at the poems and deciding which one is your favorite, we'll be creating that poll. So then you can come back to the Crowdcast once you've read those. The poll will be active and you can vote for your favorite poet. Alrighty, folks. And so the polls are now open with your submissions from Jesus, Rainstoker, Flor, and Maria G. Plasencia. So as you finish up those readings, be sure to vote in the polls.
And as you're taking a moment to do that, we have voting happening here, but also remember that voting is happening all over. We know there have been some really long lines. Some of you have waited hours, and that's awesome and amazing. We always have to make sure that our voices are heard, so please do take advantage of that. There's lots of locations. We have early voting, at least in Texas, until the 30th, and that gives us quite a bit of days to get our voices heard. So we always want to make sure that we encourage that. So do your last votes. We'll give you a few more seconds because we are reaching that hour mark, and we want to make sure that we honor that. So let's take about 30 more seconds. Okay, I think, Rafa, if you want to call the poll.
Yeah, I think here we have it. And so, Jesus, you are our wonderful winner. Jesus, if I don't know, if we have the opportunity, or if you wouldn't mind being not necessarily on screen, but if we can at least have you read your poem for us, that'd be amazing. Unless you don't mind, Adriana or myself reading your poem, so that everyone can hear it out loud. Go ahead and let me know in the chat if it's cool to invite you on. Okay, no problem, Jesus. Thank you so much. So just so that we all know, Jesus's poem for tonight: leaving my land for a better chance, not knowing what lies ahead. Will it be worth it? Ask those who were left behind. 4 very powerful lines.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as we all always know, you win a prize. So I am dropping my email in the chat for Jesus to get back to me, because he is going to win a gift card to Savage Goods. So this is digital, right? We are being very safe in our community, completely contactless. If you even order from Savage Goods, they bring it out to the front. You pick it up. You can also pick up a book there too, from Into the Beautiful North. They have a couple available. Just also so you know, Mayapan is out of books. So if that was one of the locations you were hoping, to reach. They don't have any more copies of the book. But I do know Doris Van Doren Library still has quite a few copies, and they have curbside, right? It's very safe. We're making all the efforts to make sure that we keep each other safe. So again, thank you all for joining us. We're right at the hour mark. We have our upcoming events listed there. We want to thank you all for sharing another great hour with us. And we have lots of videos coming up. And then you see my little one jumping in because she wants to get in on the action too.
And I just saw you right now.
Okay, thank you. This is the beauty of live. This is the beauty of a live session. But our next live event, we are going to have a cafecito with Karen Zacarias, with the playwright who adapted Into the Beautiful North into the stage play. And we are super excited. It's going to be a wonderful informal conversation hosted by one of our faculty members, Georgina Escobar. And so we will be there, but she's going to take the lead on that. And that's just an amazing opportunity to talk to a playwright. So please join us for that. And then I better get to my little one because it's bedtime. So thank you all so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you all so much. You have a good night.